And here we are again with your Palm Beach Guide. I'm Doug Evans, the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, where life is wonderful. Life is wonderful here in Palm Beach, and I could not be happier. I feel so fortunate to have my life here. I've been here since, I guess, 86 or so, something like that, which, if do the math, I'm old. That's fine. That's all good. I'm old. But I love my job. I love our town. I love where we're going. I love that all these people are moving here because it's so good for the economy, and it's particularly good for something I'm really passionate about, the cultural economy and the cultural ecology. And with me today is Ellen Beryl. She's the managing director of Palm Beach Dramaworks. And I get chills when I talk about you because I love what you do. And spending a lot of my life in the Northeast and in San Diego, where there are theaters like the Goodspeed and the Hartford Stage and the Old Globe and the Huntington, all these theaters. I mean, we have that here. We have that here. So, Sue Ellen, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Doug. I'm so happy to be here. And I think that the first time we met many years ago was revolving around a play.
Exactly. It was. Yeah. It was. Now, you have done a lot of great things in your life. And I read your resume. At some point in time, you were at Jacob's Pillow, which is a magical place.
It was a magical place. And that's because I started out as a dancer and had a very fond affinity for Jacob's Pillow. And I was fortunate enough to spend one summer there.
A dancer, modern dance?
Well, when you start out, you're always doing ballet training, and then, of course, you get sick of that, and you don't. I'm pretty short. I could never be a real ballerina. So, you modify what you were doing, and I went into musical theater and other things, and I had a very short career as a performer myself when I was a child. But Jacob's Pillow will always hold a very special place in my heart.
And always, in the past, you did a couple other great things. I saw Zero Mostel on your...
Oh, that was part of my youth. Yeah, I did a national tour with the Goober Gross circuit for about a year and a half. And one of our Tevias was Zero Mostel. They would change Tevias out,
Of course. It's that's a long musical, and it's a lot of work.
It is.
And what role were you in the musical?
I was one of the younger sisters.
That's cool. That's cool. So you were like there on stage most of the time with Daddy Tevye and Rep
most
Tevye
of the time,
and, all of it.
And it was wonderful, and I learned a lot.
You do. Yeah, I think when you're a certain age at that time, and you're still very, very young, you learn a lot by being on the road.
Yeah, listen, I came in 1987, so I'm old too.
So you are no, which means I'm a little bit older. So you and your husband decided at some point in time that we need a theater company here. We need a theater organization. We need a performing theater company here. And so the two of you said, we're going to do this company called, did you start with Dramaworks?
We always did Palm Beach Dramaworks, but I have to tell you, it was 100% his idea, which I told him was a terrible idea.
Okay.
And I didn't want any part of it in the beginning. And I think it was a little bit self-serving when we first started. I mean, there was no resident theater within the city of West Palm Beach. Of course, we had some wonderful theaters within the county.
Sure.
The Caldwell Theater down in Boca and Florida Stage, of course, and Manalapan. But there was nothing really in the center of West Palm Beach, so there was no resident theater company. And it was his dream. He had taken a buyout from his former job, which he had been there for 20 years. And he said, this is what I want to do. And I'm doing it whether you come with me or not.
And the former job was not in the theater, correct?
It was not in the theater, although he had a small career also when he was a child. But then both of us actually branched off and had business careers, which, to be honest, I think is one of the reasons we've been successful heading into our 25th year.
Well, it's important you said that because a lot of arts organizations, and I have a really strong opinion about this. They tend to hire an artistic person or an artist to run the business side, and it doesn't work 95% of the time.
Right, because it's show business. Right? You need to have both.
It doesn't work.
Right, and we're fortunate that we have both sides of our brains working at the same time.
I've seen, and thank goodness, I love Colleen, who runs our ballet company here. I've seen so many ballet companies who've hired former dancers to run the company, and guess where they go? They no longer exist.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a disaster in the making. And Sue Ellen, I think with you and your husband, I know with you and your husband, because you had a business background, you knew what you needed to do to make it to be a successful company. So 2000 was the first year, something like that?
We did. We started out in 2000, and we actually were working out of a gone now theater at Palm Beach Atlantic University for one season. And it was very challenging there. Of course, we could only use the theater when the school wasn't using it. It had some censorship because of its religious background. And also, to be quite honest, so many of our patrons are Jewish. And they felt that if they were supporting our company at that university, that they would be supporting a different religion.
A Christian university.
A Christian university,
Yeah.
right. So very quickly we decided we had to get out of there, and we approached the DDA, and they were very helpful, the Downtown Development Authority in the city of West Palm Beach. And they were very helpful finding us a very tiny space, 800 square feet, right off of Clematis Street, and that was our first real theater of our own. We only had 45 seats in there.
It was like a storefront, right? Because I remember going there 1,000 years ago.
Yes, it was 2001 to 2.
Yeah.
And so that was our second space, and we were there for about 2 seasons, one truncated and then one full season. But at that time, seasons were only 3 shows long.
Yeah.
And we were all still working our day jobs. You know, the company could not support us because we were supporting any other artists that worked with us.
Sure.
And then we outgrew that space very quickly. It was only 45 seats, and they were able to help us find another place on Banyan. And that was also a storefront. It had been law offices, and we kind of slowly but surely kept taking over more and more of the offices. Our landlord, who's gone now, Joe Farish, was very kind to us and let us only rent the space we needed.
Wow.
And then every year we took a little bit more space. And that theater had 84 seats, and we were running the shows 9 weeks, 8 shows a week.
Oh, my gosh.
And we were completely sold out. We had no single tickets to sell because we had so many subscribers.
Wow.
So we very aggressively were searching for a place back on Clematis, a larger place that would become our forever home. And we were looking at the theater at the corner for a long time. It took about 4 years with deals coming together and falling apart.
Sure.
Coming together and falling apart. And we were very fortunate at the time that the mayor of the city, West Palm Beach, was Lois Frankel.
Love Lois.
Who's really an artsy person.
And a visionary.
And a visionary.
Yes.
And she was very helpful in making it happen, along with the strength of our board members who, you know, put their money where their mouth was, were very helpful in every way, and got us into that space. And we opened there on 11/11/11. And here we are, 13 years later, heading into our 25th anniversary season.
So what was that theater before? What was in that space? Was it a movie theater? Or what was going on there?
The building, it was built between 48 and 49 as a movie theater with about 800 seats, and it had several iterations. Wow. I think in the 70s it became a regular theater, not a movie theater any longer. And in 1999 it was changed again to be Burt Reynolds Teaching Institute.
Exactly. Yes, I remember that.
Right,
yes.
And for about a year only. Unfortunately, it had 400 seats at that time, and that was right after that was when Mr. Quillo took it over.
Right.
And it did some good work. There was a couple of very successful shows in there, some Broadway things. Menopause the Musical ran forever there.
Cash Machine.
Yeah, and then unfortunately it kind of declined. And really nothing was happening in that theater for a very long time. So after that is when we took it over. We did a renovation because we really needed an intimate space. Mm-hmm. We couldn't do the 400 seats. And with the help of the city, the Community Redevelopment Agency, who bought the building on our behalf and allowed us to buy it back from them interest-free in 5 years, but we did it in 3 years.
No kidding.
So we own the building now. Of course, it is deed restricted, must remain a theater forever.
Good.
Although there's lots of developers who would love that corner, but no.
Do you own the air rights above it?
Unfortunately, Mr. Quillo still owns the air rights.
No kidding.
And there are only 2 floors that are available. And actually, our building itself could not support any additional weight because of the way it was built in 1949.
So then that's not going to happen then?
It's not going to happen, but Mr. Quillo could sell those development rights to someone else.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. You know, when I think about what you do there and the season, and how many seats do you have now? 2 something?
We have 218 seats.
Right. It was just a little right around 200. And the state, I mean, it's a gorgeous facility.
Thank you.
It's a gorgeous facility, and clearly did a lot of fundraising to make it happen.
Well, we have to raise half of our budget every single year.
So it's 50% now.
50%, yeah.
And what's your total operating budget now?
It's about 3.6, 3.8.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But we support a lot of artists, and we support, I know this is a business conversation. We put a lot of people to work because we're creating all the art on our stage.
Right.
So we have a production group of people, carpenters, and we bring in artists who design our projections and our sets and our sound and our lights. And in addition to all of that, our regular employees are employed full-time year-round. So we are putting lots of money back into the economy, not to mention all of the actors that we bring in.
With the actors, yes, from outside, correct.
About 100 artists a year.
And where do they live when they're here? What are you doing as far as that?
I'll tell you, that's a difficult prospect for us because we do have to house them. We're an Actors Equity Union theater.
Right.
And there are a lot of requirements regarding their housing and their transportation. And so every year we have to rent apartments to house people. And
Which is getting more and more expensive.
Very expensive, yeah.
It's crazy
And we want them as
expensive.
close as we can to the theater, but of course, the closer you are to downtown, the more expensive it
gets. Yes.
Right.
You know, when I think about that, Sue Ellen, at one point in my varied career, I ran the Old Globe in San Diego. And we were fortunate because we owned apartment buildings that were given to us by donors. Mm-hmm. And they had their names on them. It was terrific. And we were able to house them because we had all the same restrictions that you had. It was a massive operation because at that time, the Old Globe has 3 theaters. Mm-hmm. And so between the actors and the music, all this stuff, at one point in time on campus, I had 1,000 people.
Oh, my goodness.
It was staggering. But my point to you is you've got to house these actors, these artists. That's an expense. And one of the things that a wonderful donor could do for you is give you an apartment building, quite honestly.
Amen.
At this point.
Yes, I hope anyone listening out there.
You know something, if you don't ask, you don't receive.
Right. Or a couple of apartments. Doesn't have to be the whole building.
Yeah, well, you're right. Like a couple apartments, deed them to you, a nice gift kind of a thing. You know, you can pay the condo fees forever or whatever. But,
exactly.
But, you know, you can take them over. But you've got to house the actors. Where do you find the talent, though, for your scene building and for the lighting designers and the sound, all the production people? Where do they come from?
Well, they're full-time employees.
Okay, so you've got that production staff.
We've got a production staff, not necessarily the designers, but the people who run the shows, who build the sets, who paint the sets, that sort of thing. And, right after the pandemic, it was very difficult to find people. Our staff had been reduced, of course. We were closed for almost 2 whole years.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we had to start over and start finding people who are interested. And I can tell you, I don't need to tell you, I suppose, you're not making the big bucks.
No, you're not.
In the arts, especially not in a nonprofit regional theater. So you have to have a love of the work. You have to have passion for it. And we're just very lucky right now to have a full staff, a technical director, an assistant TD, a carpenter, a props master. And we did lose our scenic artist to a university, so we bring her back just to paint the sets.
But that's important. That's amazing. You're listening to Doug Evans. I'm the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'm with Sue Ellen Beryl, who is the managing director of Palm Beach Dramaworks, and it's amazing. And the last show they had, we're going to talk about the happy, good stuff now. Yeah. We got past the COVID, we got past the startup, we got into the new building. It's paid for. They're debt free on that, which is unheard of, by the way, in the nonprofits, the arts organizations, which is a testament to her and her husband making this happen. And the last show that you just had was sold out and extended.
Yeah, well, we're very proud of the kind of work we do. Our tagline is theater to think about.
Right.
And we really want to do socially relevant, important, serious subjects for people who, when they leave the theater, are feeling something, they're impacted in some way, and also have something to talk about on the ride home. Yeah. So we started out with a lot of the classics. We seem to have been defined by doing a couple of Mr. Albee's plays. That were
I was going there next, by the way. I was going there next.
Okay. And then since that time, really even from the very beginning, because we had our very first playwrights contest, our first year, we have been embracing new work, which has only been growing and growing and growing. And in 2014, we began our drama workshop,
right,
which encourages playwrights and new work. And the play that you're talking about, which closed about 10 days ago, was called The Cancellation of Lauren Fine, which is about cancel culture. And who knew 18 months ago when we started this project that it was going to be so timely?
A hit.
A big hit by a wonderful playwright, Christopher Demos Brown, who had a play on Broadway a few years ago called American Son, which is also on Netflix. And he was wonderful to work with, and we developed that play and were able to produce it to rave reviews. As you said, we were able to extend it, which was wonderful.
I mean, it's amazing. I think about the content that right now I'm reading a book called Cocktails with George and Martha, which is about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
I'm aware.
Have you read it yet?
Not yet, but I've heard about it.
To me, it's brilliant because I happen to love that play. And of course, I haven't seen it live, but I saw it with Liz Taylor, of course, and the movie, which I think is nothing short of brilliant. And people say, "What's it about?" It is so thought provoking that it's just about a 6-hour period between two couples. Yeah. There's nothing that happens there except dialogue. That's thoughtful theater to me, and it's brilliantly written. And at the time when you pick up the book, which maybe I'll get it for you and send it to you because I'm so passionate about
Thank
this.
you, I appreciate it.
It's a heavy read, but I will send. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to get it for you. It talks about Albee. It talks about how at that point in time when Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was on stage, 61, 62, 63, somewhere in there, it was so controversial because of the language, because of the crazy characters, the drinking on stage,
the way they treated each other,
and Liz Taylor, seducing the young professor. I mean, and to now it's just tame stuff. It's like, okay, it is what it is. But that's the kind of stuff the classics she used to do. Do you still mix those in, or is yours all new works now?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in 3 weeks we're opening Death of a Salesman.
Love it.
The great Arthur Miller play.
Love it.
That has a lot to offer.
Stood the test of time.
So sometimes people will say to us, we've really embraced new work, and we try to put at least 1 or 2 new plays into our season every year.
And you have a receptive audience for it, which is hard to do, by the way.
Yes.
But you've done it.
And I think it's because it's not all new work. There is a mixture. We do have something called the Pearlburg Festival of New Plays, which we do in January, and we solicit plays from established playwrights all over the country, and go through this enormously long process of selecting 5 plays that we present with staged readings with professional actors and professional directors. And it was very successful this past January. We had a lot of patrons come to see all 5 plays. And we were also fortunate enough to do interviews with the great Estelle Parsons.
Love her.
Yeah, she's terrific. She's a good friend of the theater, having been on our stage about 10 years ago. And also Mark St. Germain, who's another really well-established playwright. So we do those plays in addition to the classic plays, which sometimes people will say, "Oh, I've seen, whatever, Death of a Salesman." Okay, well, yeah, you've seen it. You saw it 30 years ago when you were a different person.
Right.
It's going to mean something different to you now, so come and see it. And you have to remember, when we're recreating these plays, which is basically what we're doing when we put on a play.
Fresh every time. Yeah.
It's always a different vision. It's a different director, it's different actors, it's always going to be a little different. And of course, it's a different show every night because it's live theater.
It's live theater, which is the best part of it.
Exactly.
So sprinkling those in. So you've got Death of a Salesman coming up. Tell us, we're getting close to the end of a season kind of thing. Can you tell us, have you made any announcements or what you're thinking of for the future? Or is that too much to ask you?
Okay, well, we have another show after Death of a Salesman called Trying, which is a wonderful play called by Joanna McClellan Glass, who actually, it's a memoir play. When she was a young person, and she was the assistant secretary, whatever you want to call it, to Judge Francis Biddle.
Oh, wow.
Who was the judge at the Nuremberg trials and the U.S. Attorney General for quite some time. And this memoir play happens late in his life when she becomes his secretary. And it's about the two of them trying to get along. And it's really a lovely play. It has a lot of historical references. So that play ends the very first week of June. Then in the summer, we do some of our educational things. We have a wonderful summer program with students called the Academy at PBD.
Super.
We do a lot for education. I would love to talk about that as well.
Sure.
We started our education program in 2016, brought on a fabulous director of education and community engagement. His name's Gary Cadwallader.
Okay.
And we do 1 million kid programs. We have young playwright contests for middle school and for high school. We also have an essay contest that we attach with one of our plays that the kids have to write for. We have the Academy at PBD, which produces a fully realized production for a week in the summer. And actually the jewel in the crown of that, despite all of the professional development and master classes and everything else that Gary does, I don't know where he finds the time. We have something that we bring into the schools called the One Humanity Tour. And we developed this in conjunction with the playwright Eric Coble, also a Broadway playwright, who wrote a youth play for us for 6th grade, which we bring into all of the schools in Palm Beach County, and all the 6th grade classes come together at the same time and see this play. And it's about the relationship between law enforcement, the community, and law enforcement, and how they get along and what happens.
That's interesting.
So that's the 6th grade play. Then we have a 7th grade play, which is really chilling. It's called Live to Tell. And I know you'll be surprised to hear this, but Florida is number 3 in the country, and Palm Beach County is number 3 in the state of Florida for human sex trafficking. And the average age of the students is 13. So we're zoning in on those 7th grade 13-year-old students to help save lives and get them familiar with what could happen on social media or wherever if you try to run away from home, or even some of those students are still living at home with their parents and who are unaware that they're being sex trafficked.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's really very compelling, and we've been granted, of course, from Impact 100 and the Impact in Southern County, the Boca Raton chapter of Impact, to help us get those plays launched. And we've been doing them for a couple of years now. And this year, we are launching our 8th grade play, which has not yet been named. It's being written right now. We just received a wonderful grant from the Hearst Foundation.
Oh, great.
And this particular play is about opioid abuse.
Oh, my gosh.
So it is our commitment to bring all 3 of those plays to middle schools in perpetuity. And it costs a lot of money to put together professional actors and a tour and directors and all of the costumes and the sets and everything else. And we truck it around to all the schools in the county that avail themselves of the service. That's
amazing. You know, Sue Ellen, people think that the arts are a frill. And when you hear stories like this, you realize that, like in the classes you're doing, it's about writing, it's about literature, it's about skill sets. When you talk about the performances you're doing with the 6th, 7th, and soon to be the 8th graders, it's about saving lives and changing lives. And so, yeah, the arts are fun and they're interesting, but this is so amazing to me that you're doing this. And more people need to know about this. Every time I spend time with you, I learn more. And I think you've seen in the last year and a half since I've been in the chamber, I really care about the cultural sector. I really care that you, as an organization, get this word out to people who have resource.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. Yes, yes.
To help you pay for you changing lives. So yes, you can go see Death of a Salesman. It's going to be fabulous. It's amazing. Tickets are on sale. Go see it. They'll do a great season next year. But those ticket sales and these grants all come together. They coalesce to come together to do something even greater, which to me is I get chills. You're changing lives, you're saving lives.
Right, and I think so much of it is here, maybe different from where you or I grew up. I grew up in the Northeast, and, going to see theater or museums or any of that was part of my life.
Right,
my parents would take me, even the schools would take us.
The schools would take us, yes.
And I don't know that that's happening so much anymore. We do provide at Dramaworks the opportunity for classes to come and watch. We do special student matinees, and it's unfortunate how few of them are taken up because there's testing or, whatever the issue is. The principal didn't like the content of the play or something like that. And, we provide the buses. Sometimes we give lunch to the kids. We do everything we possibly can to engage them. There are classroom prompts and study guides that we send in advance so that they can talk about all the really important ethical issues, all the things that are brought up when you see live theater. And, we believe that it's transformative. When you are sitting there in a theater in a communal experience,
yes,
with all the other people in the theater gasping at the same time or laughing at the same time or crying at the same time, it's different than sitting on your couch at home.
It is. And on that note, I had a board chair once who was the president and CEO of a little company called Life and Casualty. He's since passed away last year. He was 90. He was a mentor of mine. And he said, human beings, it's about packing and clumping. And where do you do this? He was the chair of my board of my Performing Arts Center, so he loved the arts. And he goes, church, the mall, and the performing arts.
Right.
Packing and clumping, because that human need to be together, that synonymous, that gasp together, that laughter, those tears, walking out and discussing it. We first sat down and he said, it's about thought-provoking theater where you talk about it on the way home. And to me, it's transformative with what you're doing here. And it's something that, as this market has continued to explode, which is great for you because it's more people who will come to the theater, hopefully, with more resource and money to spend money on tickets. With 200 seats, we can sell you out every time, which is amazing. But what you're doing here is amazing. And I can't thank you and your husband enough that you have the vision 25 years ago to say, we're going to do a theater company. Yes, it's self-serving right now, but gosh darn it, it's going to be. And in perpetuity, people can leave you gifts in their estates. They can write checks. They can leave insurance policies. You'll take property. You'll take boats. You'll take cars. I did this. I'll take all of it, and I'll sell it, and I'll create an endowment. So if they want to find out more, it's Palm Beach Dramaworks. What's the website?
It's palmbeachdramaworks.org.
There it is. That's very easy. Death of a Salesman. If you're listening to this whenever it drops, you might have missed it, but there's more coming out there. So Ellen Beryl, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a member of the chamber, a trustee. You lean in so much in this community, which most people don't. And you're running a charity. It's a charity. It's a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't have the quality of life we have here in the Palm Beaches.
Well, I can't thank you enough for inviting me today, for giving me the opportunity to tell my story, and for all the wonderful things that you've said.
We're going to keep doing it.
Okay, I hope so. I look forward to it.
As long as I'm at the chamber, you're going to have a big fan here, and I'll keep promoting you guys. You've been listening to Doug Evans, the President and CEO. To think about it, the President and CEO. I'm so excited about Dramaworks, Palm Beach Dramaworks. The President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. This is your Palm Beach Guide. Find us wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you find it. Take it, download it, send it, share it, put it wherever you want to go. But most of all, go out, go to the arts, buy a ticket, make a donation. Just drop in if you have to. Whatever you do, support the performing arts and make it a great day. And come to the Palm Beaches and visit the beaches and the restaurants and Palm Beach Dramaworks. Thanks for listening.